back. You're watching The Money Show with me, Kavita, Thapliyal, and there are plethora of funds available in the market to invest your hard-earned money in. But how do you assess which is the right fund for your portfolio? What are the criteria that one should look at to help you navigate through this maze? Today I have with me Hemant Tusikhi, Vice Invest Private Limited CEO. Also, do not forget to send us your portfolio queries on our WhatsApp number, which is 865-797-4571. You can also email us your question on themoneyshow@etnow.tv. Hi, good evening, Hemant, and welcome to The Money Show. We will take our first question, which is from Mr. H.R. Kamath. It's via email. He sent us his query. He says that he's 62 years old and he wants your comment on his fund mix. He has Kotak Emerging Equity, Parag Parikh Flexi Cap, HDFC Balance Advantage, SBI Contra, SBI Dividend Yield and Nippon Small Cap. That's the amount of details I have with me as far as his portfolio is concerned. It would have been nice for us to have him on the phone line, otherwise, to know better about his risk profile and other aspects of his financial portfolio. But so far, this is the information I have for you. How would you go ahead?
Kavita, I think assuming that if you really see here, there are 6 funds. Out of 6, 5 are equity fund and 1 is balanced advantage. So I'm assuming that the intent is here to invest for the long term. So based on that, obviously, if I look at the composition of the portfolio, both in terms of the category of fund and the funds that are a part of the portfolio, I think he's done a good job. He can continue with that. But the only thing also missing is that we don't know how much has he allocated to each of these funds. While when you look at the name of the fund and you see that he's getting the right kind of exposure to different market segments, different philosophies, but the key is also how much he's investing in each one. Because if, for example, he's invested a lot of money in let's say small cap or in some aggressive fund, then we wouldn't really know whether the portfolio has become very aggressive. But like I said, if the intent is to invest for the long term, the portfolio is good. Quality of the fund is good. He can continue with that. But I think one key factor that he should look at is that he should have kind of balanced exposure to all these. Second is, if we know exactly what is the time horizon, then we need to see whether the balanced advantage fund is the right category of funds or not, especially if the intent is to invest for, let's say, 10 years or more. So these are 2 aspects that I think he needs to look at.
All right, we definitely don't have him on the phone line and we don't have all the details. But then just considering the same age group, how much of an exposure are you allowed to have in equity? It's also case specific. It depends on the kind of portfolio and the requirement you have at this particular age. But then you're a senior citizen. Ideally, what should be your approach towards having equity exposure in your financial portfolio?
Well, Kavita, I think as you rightly mentioned, look, there are always thumb rule in terms of how you decide your asset allocation. Usually what is said is that when you're a senior citizen, then obviously you need to be a little careful. But at the same time, let's not forget that even as a senior citizen, you need to tackle inflation. So clearly, equity still has to be an integral part of your portfolio. In terms of specific question to look how much allocation should be there in equity, I think it clearly depends on your personal situation. For example, you are at that stage of life where you have kind of taken care of all your liabilities, right? And if you have income of coming from different sources, could be rental income, could be pension, then exposure to equity can be slightly higher because at the end of the day, you're also creating a corpus for yourself and for your family. So you wouldn't want to make your portfolio very conservative. So clearly, how much allocation should be there based is clearly depends on what is your personal situation. But equity definitely has to be an integral part of the portfolio, even for senior citizens.
All right, let's move on. I have Mr. Murli on the phone line with me. Hi, good evening. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Hope you're also doing well.
Thank you so much for sending us your question. And your question is about PGIM India Flexi Cap Fund, right? Do you already have this fund in the portfolio?
Yes, I have.
You've been investing and you are not happy with the performance, is it?
No. I am happy with the performance. I just like to, see the view, with comparison of the peers. Like, if we see, we have other funds as well in that flexi category, like Parag is one, and then we have Quant is there. So just like to get an expert view on that, how that fund is performing. when compared with peers. But with the returns that we are having right now, it's coming around the inception we have 14%. But just like to understand the view, when
Sure.
comparison with the peers.
Okay. So Hemant, it's PGIM India Flexi Cap Fund he wants to know about. As compared to the peers, how is the fund performing?
First thing I would say that I think Flexi Cap is a very important category, especially for any investor who's looking to build a portfolio or looking to invest in an option which has a bias towards the large cap. Typically, what happens in the Flexi Cap that you have significant exposure to large cap and of course some exposure to mid and small. In my view, I think Flexi Cap is a better category than investing in a pure large cap because there is some flexibility for you as well as for the fund manager. If I look at the comparison with the peer group, I'm afraid PGIM has not been very consistent. There are better quality funds available, like if you see Nippon India Flexi Cap Fund or Parag Parikh Flexi Cap Fund. I quite like Parag Parikh Flexi Cap Fund. The reason for that is that apart from the domestic equity, it also gives you an exposure to US equity. Now, there are 4 or 5 concentrated bets that the fund has taken in the US markets. And if you really see in the current year, I think Parag Parikh has been in the best performing Flexi Cap Fund. In terms of diversification, also it adds a lot of value because you're investing also in international markets. So if you could look at one fund in the Flexi Cap category, definitely I would recommend that he can consider looking at Parag Parikh Flexi Cap instead of PGIM Flexi Cap Fund.
Let's move on and let's take the last question for today. And this question is from Venkatesh. He says that he's 32 years old and he wants to create a corpus of 5 crores to mutual fund. And what should be the SIP amount for this particular goal?
Well, since the target is quite huge, he's looking to accumulate a corpus of 5 crore, looking at his time horizon of 13 years. He doesn't really have a very long-term horizon, especially when you're investing through SIP. He will need to invest around 1,25,000 per month, assuming an annualized return over the next 13 years to build his corpus of 5 crore. I would recommend maybe he can consider looking at 5 funds wherein he can invest 25,000 each. One is Kotak Multi-Cap Fund, Parag Parikh Flexi Cap Fund, HDFC Large and Mid, Nippon Small Cap, and Motilal Oswal Mid Cap Fund. So these are 5 funds which will give him good exposure to all the 5 segments, the way it should be for a long-term portfolio. And if he continues this process for 13 years, he should be able to achieve his target of 5 crore.
All right, I think with that, it's a wrap. Thank you so much, Hemant, for being on the show and helping our viewers with their financial portfolio queries. And before I sign off, I'm going to leave our viewers with our WhatsApp number and email ID where we keep waiting for your questions so that we can do your live financial planning on the show. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.